All right, we'll go ahead and get started. Thank you, everybody, for signing on. We're very excited to have Mike Fox from Lockheed Martin here today to present out on everything that they have going on at the Greenville site. Uh, Before we get started, I'm going to hand it over to our council president and CEO, Susie Shannon, for a few remarks. Susie.
Hey, thanks, Stephen. So we've got a full house well, it's not this evening yet. It is Friday Eve, though. We'll take that. But I wanted to do a quick intro on and from the council. So good morning, everyone, and welcome to our SC Aerospace Partner Monthly Spotlight featuring Lockheed Martin. I'm Susie Shannon. I serve as the president of the South Carolina Council on Competitiveness. From the council team, we have Stephen Aston-Borski, who directs our Aerospace Cluster Initiative. Adrienne Beasley, you may remember her as our previous aerospace director, but who now serves as a director of strategy and communications. We've got Alex and Amanda from the comms team, Callie Price, our project coordinator. So got a lot of teamwork on this event today. Our mission is simply stated: we wake up every day working to advance the state's long-term competitiveness, primarily through actionable research, such as our recent findings that showed the nearly $29 billion impact of our state's aerospace sector, as well as through our SC Fraunhofer USA Alliance. Realize that's a mouthful, which offers up matching dollars for industry-sponsored research in partnership with the South Carolina Department of Commerce. So do let us know if you're in need of assistance for an R&D project with a quick turnaround. Also do our work through education and workforce programs. So working to ensure that students, workers are prepared for college, careers, and citizenship. But the backbone of what we do every day is really about nurturing and managing industry clusters like technology, cybersecurity, all modes of logistics, railroads, maritime, air freight, and especially aerospace that gives South Carolina a competitive advantage. We cannot do this work without the support and input of all of you and our partners like the Department of Commerce and Lockheed Martin. So Mike Fox, Leslie Farmer, thanks for all you do. And with that, I'm going to hand off to Stephen to do the formal intro and to get us officially started. Stephen?
Thanks, Susie. A few housekeeping notes before we get started. We ask that everybody remain on mute throughout the presentation. If you have questions, you can submit them in the chat box. We also received some questions before or during the registration process, so we'll be sure to ask those. If we don't get to your questions, we'll do the best we can in copying them down and following up with you to get you an answer. A few other notes. I just wanted to go over upcoming events in the next few months here. On February 24th, we'll be doing this again with another one of our partners, the Upstate SC Alliance. We'll have Jacob Hickman on talking about all the great work that the Alliance does to promote growth in the Upstate. On March 4th, we're going to be having a presentation and tour led by Dr. Bayumi of the University of South Carolina McNair Aerospace Research Center. Dr. Bayumi is going to present out on a project on automated fiber placement that the McNair Center worked on. And this is an event that is by invitation only for our partners and our advisory board. So just to know, if your company has an interest in becoming a partner with SC Aerospace, this is the type of event that you would then gain access to. So we're very excited for that on March 4th. Coming up on March 24th, we're going to have Steve Towns and Ranger Aerospace and another one of these partner spotlights, talking about all the great work that Ranger does and the support that they have given the SC Aerospace industry cluster. And then in April, we're very excited to be hosting an in-person event. We'll have a networking reception at the South Carolina Aeronautical Training Center from 4 to 7 on April 19th, and that'll launch us into the next day on April 20th for Tech Talk 2021, which is hosted by SC Logistics, but also supported by SC Aerospace and ACL Airshop, part of the Ranger Aerospace group there. Will be presenting at that. So we're very excited for all the events we have coming up. Please pay attention to the newsletters and the email announcements that come up, and we look forward to seeing you all there. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Leslie Farmer from the communications lead from Lockheed Martin, and also, I should mention, a member of our advisory board at SC Aerospace, and Greenville Site Director, Mike Fox.
All right, Leslie, I guess I'm going to get started then. Well, hey, thanks, Stephen. Thanks, Susie. Before we came on, we saw that slide that said Greenville, South Carolina, the F-16 capital of the world. Boy, if that doesn't make you feel good and get you excited, I don't know what does. So we're going to take the opportunity today and just kind of walk you through our business here in Greenville, give you some time to, ask some questions. But before we get started, as Stephen said, that I am Mike Fox. I am the site director and GM here in Greenville. Been in Greenville for about 3 years. Been with Lockheed for 18. Retired Air Force aircraft maintainer for 22 years. My original assignment when I came here was to move the F-16 production line from Fort Worth to Greenville. Started that journey here in Greenville. Don Erickson, who had been here for many years, who just, we all miss and are thankful for all the work that he did. He decided to retire, and I had the opportunity to take over. So I'm excited to be in this position. Prior to coming here, I was the U-2 aircraft deputy or depot director out in Palmdale, California. So a little bit about me, and let's talk a little bit more about Lockheed Martin. Your mission is ours. We stand behind that. So we'll go ahead and get started. Next slide. So Lockheed Martin as a company, the largest defense firm in the United States. And if you were watching the news today, we added to that the largest aerospace and defense firm in the U.S. So we're very proud of that. We continue to grow. We have a very large population. The backbone of our business is our employees, 110,000 strong and growing. Very big international presence. Big makeup of scientists, as you would imagine, and engineers. And the other part that we really want to point out is that 1 in 5 of our employees are veterans. But here in Greenville, it's every 2 in 5 are veterans. So we're proud of that fact. Our footprint's pretty big. Got a lot of facilities, 395. You can see where our headquarters are at internationally. We are in 54 different countries, so big footprint there. And then, what's in our portfolio? What makes up Lockheed Martin? When we talk about aeronautics, that headquarters is in Fort Worth. That's where we line up to from both a production and a sustainment side of the business. We'll talk a little bit more about how we are really 2 parts of our business today as we continue to build on our personal portfolio and within the company. The other part of our portfolio is the missiles and fire control, rotary emission systems, and space. So we're excited to be, here today presenting. We're proud of our company, Lockheed Martin, and what we stand for, and it just gives you kind of a quick overview and kind of demographics of who we are and where we're at. So, all right, let's go to the next slide. So let's talk about Lockheed Martin in South Carolina, and our 2 major operations that you may or may not be familiar with is the Greenville operation, which is the new home of F-16 production line and the Center of Excellence for Aircraft Sustainment for more than 35 years now. We would also add in their F-16 production line, and we'll talk a little bit more. It's been in the news quite a bit. Is that big contract that we won for F-16 depot, maintaining F-16s for the next 5 to 10 years. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. And then Marine Corps Air Station in Beaufort, supporting F-35 Lightning II training. So we always kind of refer to that as kind of the bookends, right, of the state. And then mixed in there is 100 suppliers within South Carolina. And those suppliers are Lockheed Martin suppliers, and they're not only providing services and goods to the 2 locations, but to our entire portfolio. When you look at the number of people that we employ here in the state, it's about 700 and continues to grow. Will grow pretty significantly over the next year. Really kind of the breakdown with that is about 600 in Greenville, a little 100 plus down in Beaufort. $174 million in direct spending here in the state, and a capital investment, which is pretty significant for the size of our site, $260 million capital investments over the last 35 years. We've just, as a point of reference, with the stand-up of the F-16 production, that's been an additional $40 million within the last, I would say, 2.5 to 3 years. So heavily capital investments. We needed to do that, where we took a hangar that was had 4 C-130 large aircraft, and then we made that into a major assembly, F-16 production assembly. So our economic impact is for the state is 100 million, and so pretty large impact. And then the potential growth. You know, we get asked this question quite a bit: is, hey, how is Greenville growing? You know, we hear this in the news. What else are they bringing on? What other jobs? So we're going to talk about, you know, jobs, because as Leslie and I spoke earlier, you know, it's probably your interest is in from a supplier standpoint. Your interest is probably in from a, you know, what you know, skill sets are you hiring? So, you know, we want to make sure we're targeting what you want, you know, what we think that you want to hear. So we'll get through the briefing and then we'll get into the questions. You know, then there's a steady continued growth in Beaufort as more F-35s are delivered to that base. So, all right. So that's the state outlook. All right. So let's go to the next slide. And then let's talk about Greenville operations, who we are and what we do. We really break ourselves down into really 3 categories. There's our sustainment operations, which is our depot, nose to tail aircraft sustainment, heavy modification, advanced mission system. And we also, a lot of people don't realize we do the UH-60 Black Hawk storage and repairs. We like to think of it that with our customer, they want to put a new system on the aircraft, and it's very complex. It's a trial kit. We are the place to come and do that. We have years of experience doing that, as well as depot and sustainment operations. The other side of the business, to the right side, and then I'll get into the middle, is our production operations. This is for F-16 Block 70 and 72, the most advanced F-16 in the world. You know, think about it. Ever built, the most advanced F-16 ever built is being built right here in South Carolina, Block 70 and 72. And we'll talk a little bit more about the, you know, what specifically is different about the Block 70 and 72. We have a final assembly and a checkout area here. So when you think about it, well, you know, we do have what we call co-producers, you know, around the world, suppliers, all those parts, all that material comes here, you know, as we all know, just in time or in, you know, the right time. And then what we do is we do mostly here is the assembly on the F-20 or on the F-16. So we're doing that assembly, as well as we have some back shop and some of the manufacturing here. But we put the aircraft together, which is, you know, no easy feat, you know, to do. And then we roll it out of our assembly area and then take it over to our final assembly and checkout, take it to the flight line, fuel, paint, everything we do right here in Greenville, as well as we're going to do our flights out of Greenville, making sure that, you know, the aircraft is airworthy. So, and then in the middle, we have a unique team that does site integration. This is your engineering, your program, your support shops, your fabrication, everything that you know, that serves both sides of the business. You know, when we looked at the strategy at the site, you didn't want to have an integration team that's just really focused just on operations and one in production. This team sits right here, kind of in the middle, and they do a great job supporting both lines of our business. So when you think about Greenville, you know, over 35 years, the line of business was sustainment. And that business, you know, as we talked with, you know, around the state was really kind of a ups and downs and flows. And, you know, and with the production coming in and the number of aircraft we have, it's giving us that steady state of business as that sustainment operations, the depots and drop-in work that we get. So we're really well positioned having that the production in and sustainment now. So next slide. Gives you a look at our platforms, 35, 36 years. We were airlift and patrol. I think some of our Rod McLean is on down in Marietta. That's our what we refer to as AMMM. Rod, we support Rod. Rod is the executive leader for the airlift and patrol for our company. So we serve, the Marietta team by doing these mods, doing paint, doing really just a large portfolio with them. And we've been in partners with them, and we have just a great relationship, and we appreciate Rod and everything that he does here for us, not only in the site, but also for Greenville. This rotary wing, we had the opportunity a couple years ago to bring in UH-60s and store them here before they went into a modification. So they came off the production line. They weren't ready to go into the modification. And so we've had them, we have them here, they come, they go. We've been doing this for about 3 or 4 years. It's a good business. It really is, when you think about, when you have heavies and you have rotary and now you have fighter, we really are what we refer to as a joint base, right? As you look out across aeronautics, there is no other site that has this type of portfolio where that they are maintaining, storing, or building, both heavies, the C-130s as in the picture, the UH-60s, and of course the fighter. I would say probably the fighter has gotten, the F-16 has gotten probably most of the attention over the last couple of years because of the growth with that from both the production and the now with the depot. So that's our platforms that we support here at the site. All right, next slide. So we call ourselves the home of the F-16, and I would say, the F-16, not only in the fact that we build and maintain the F-16 now, but the home of the F-16 because of McIntyre Joint Base, where they're flying the F-16, the most advanced F-16, and then Shaw Air Force Base, the largest F-16 base squadron in the world. So truly, we are the home of the F-16. So kind of just walking through some milestones, you're probably wondering, okay, so how did this all get started? And then where are you at today? And when you look back in 2017, we had finished up the Iraqi program on the F-16s, and we had that was the last orders. So we pretty much mothballed all the tooling, all the equipment, and then come 2018, we had our first signing of the contract that was with Bahrain. They were really the launch customer and got us moving to where we started to really stand up. We had a customer, and we were, on our way to which we really felt all along that we were going to start this line back up. And in 2018, we really had that opportunity to go do that. When you think about 2017 to 2018 and you kind of move through this timeline, keep in back of your mind is that this is a Block 70 and a Block 72. When we shut the line down and we had the opportunity really to go in and create and to basically beef up the aircraft and move it from an 8,000 hour flying hours to a 12,000 flying hours. So we took advantage as a company of that opportunity, invest, I would say, in the right areas, advance the aircraft, came out of this with, the most advanced F-16 in the world. So we did a lot of work in 2018, and really a lot of that was around the hangar refurbishment. Got the hangar up, and we were really heading in, got a lot of the things in place. It was really a key milestone for us here in Greenville. We kicked it off with a ribbon cutting in 2019. You can see that's a very significant a group of distinguished individuals here that came to the site, and we had the ribbon cutting. As you may know, in the middle is I have to recognize here's Michelle Evans, who recently passed away. She was our aeronautics executive vice president. And now Greg Ulmer has taken over, but Michelle was just a tremendous supporter. She was a believer in Greenville. She backed us. She believed in everything we did. And, I really, truly do believe the reason, the big part of why F-16's production is here in Greenville is because of Michelle. So we miss her, and Greg is now taken over. So once we got Bahrain as the launch customer, the orders started to come in pretty quick. And Slovakia signed up with 14 F-16s. We had the first, we loaded the first parts on 11 November, excuse me, of 2019, and we began production. In 2020, you look now as Bulgaria has signed 8 aircraft. We had a production independent deliveries and quantity. So basically what that means is, we are able to bring in additional aircraft, as defined and the quantity. So we'll talk a little bit more about that when we get into the to the slide. And then the most recent news on December 20th of last year was that we had won the F-16 depot contract. The synergies around what we had done with the production and standing up the production, we put in with the help of South Carolina Technology and Aviation Center, CTAC, who is our lease, who we have a partnership. I won't necessarily, it's a lease, but it is really a partnership here that we have with them. And when you think about, we had to put in a arresting system. If you're not familiar with a arresting system, that's so when the first time we build the aircraft, we have to, if something happens, we have to be able to catch the tail hook. So it was a really significant undertaking to put that arresting system in. So really, our fuel barn, our arresting system, all those things really put us in a very good position to win the depot contract. So those are the milestones for the delivery, or excuse me, the stand-up. So let's look at, let's talk a little bit about production. So again, I think I've said that a few times. It's Block 70, 72, being the newest and most advanced F-16 production configuration. Some of those key features are state-of-the-art avionics, a radar advanced weapon system, similar to what we have in the F-35 and the F-22. I talked a little bit about the 12,000-hour airframe service life. We really knew those stress points over many years of flying the aircraft. We were able to just key in on that and then cold work some of those points and beef them up and make the aircraft, and actually add to the service life of the aircraft. The automatic ground collision avoidance system, you may be familiar with that because several years ago we won the Collar Trophy for the most advanced technology in aviation with a win of that. This GCAS system is designed so that if the pilot loses consciousness or control of the aircraft, this system actually will take over and get it back on the flight path. So, hey, who's our current customers? As I mentioned earlier, Bahrain with 16, Slovakia with 14, Bulgaria 8. The big order came with Taiwan, and that was, really, I think that was the part that really kind of pushed us over into really were a long-term strategic look at building F-16s. Because when we first started off, the initial 16, we were setting up the line, as you see the picture here, we kept asking ourselves, is this 16 and done? Will we have more? But, it's kind of like that thing, if you build it, they will come. And we really felt strongly that, building it here and putting it in Greenville, that the orders would follow, and they have. And then others with 24. So that gives us a total of a backlog of 128 aircraft. There are 7 aircraft today that are what we call work in progress on the line. If you look at the picture that we have on the right-hand side, it looks much different with the aircraft in there. I do want to point out, when you talk about investments in the state, we really were had a lot of pride about the fact that that lift system that you see up at the top, that's just an amazing feat to actually get this in the building and actually put this in. And it was, the company was out of Duncan, South Carolina. And so we went out there, we recognized them, but that's that investment, right? When we talk about standing up in the capital investment, that's what this is a good example of referencing that. All right, next slide. So the F-16 CONUS depot announcement, let me just kind of give you a few highlights on this. This contract was awarded in December of 2020. It is a 5-year contract with a 5-year option, 10 years total. The scope of the work is depot level sustainment for U.S. Air Force F-16s. There are provisions in there for foreign military F-16 depot work. We've had our kickoffs. We had been working on this to stand up the depot capability for, with not only with production, but for the last year, because once, the challenge to this contract is whoever would win this contract had 90 days from the point of, being awarded the contract that the first aircraft would come to that location. So we had a lot of work we had to do, and so we're there. We expect the first aircraft to come in about mid-March, and we'll be ready. But when it's a pretty large contract. It's a $900 million contract, and we're very proud to and honored to have been selected and for that award. It was a competitive award, and so it was a challenge over 2 years. We really had to understand what we could do here and how we could do it, and then be competitive in that market. So now you could say Lockheed Martin, Greenville is now both produce and maintain F-16s. We established the first ever U.S.-based F-16 industry depot to support government-owned depot facilities. So we've had multiple kickoffs with our customer. We're excited about that this opportunity and the relationship we've already started with our government customers. So we're off and running, and expect the first aircraft here in March. And then just as a kind of a point of reference, we get asked this, well, how many will you have, per year? And that's kind of yet to be, we kind of have an idea. The government's still working through a lot of that, but we've seen that number, I would say, grow from what we first thought it was going to be. We have pretty large capability to take on additional work. We originally set up our bays to have 12 hard docks in our building, but we see that growing and having more, those hard docks in place, as well as having, additional hangar space to support other modifications. So this is the Greenville, or this is the F-16 CONUS depot. All right. And there you go. And F-16 South Carolina to the world. And just again, I would just close my part before we get into questions, and just say all the thank you to the legislative team, the governor, I see John Wall on, everybody, and in the council, the Aerospace Council, South Carolina Manufacturing Association down in Columbia. What a great support. There couldn't be a better place in the world to build this, and building it right here in South Carolina with this backing, this team, not only at the state level, but in the county, and I would say even in the city in the Greenville. So I see some of our council members on, and I just want to say thank you to them as well. All right. So we can go to the next slide, and this is the opportunity to open it up for questions and answers.
Great, thanks, Mike. We have a few questions that some people submitted during registration. I'll start with those. So with the growth of new orders coming in for the new F-16s, and now with especially with the depot level maintenance, what do you think the projected needs from suppliers for F-16 work is going to be going forward?
Yeah, when we've had this discussion down in Columbia, and we really, I would say our goal is to grow it, right? No doubt about it. We see that on really, moving in the right direction. You have to really look for those opportunities too, right? I mean, they're there, but we then and I'll give you kind of a quick story, and this is part of our processing some of our parts that we manufacture. And that parts, we were actually sending them out to California to be processed, because there's just not a lot of places in the United States for the type of processing we do of those metals. and then waiting for them to come back. So we see the opportunities there where that, the supply chain is kind of lengthy, right? And we need more of a quick turnaround. But the F-16, for the most part, when we started up the line, we said, hey, look we're not going to change a lot of things. We're going to keep the suppliers that we've had in place for over 40 years. Some have come, if some have gone, right? But we'll start with that baseline. We'll continue to grow that, that base. And then we have co-producers. So where we really are seeing the most immediate, I guess you would say business is the expansion. We already had quite a few contracts in place with production and with sustainment. So if you're thinking, we use a lot of tools of drills, reamers, even from a 3M standpoint of, material to manufacture. That has probably doubled and tripled in the last year alone that I've seen. And, bringing on new suppliers. When we went to the Council Aerospace, Expo a couple of years ago, we were asked this question quite a bit, and so we do want to grow that. We see opportunities. And, one of the first things when we were down at the Expo, we would get asked this question, and I would say I would kind of put this question back on to the suppliers or vendors and say, hey, are you an approved Lockheed Martin vendor? And, and then I would get asked the question, well, how do we go do that, right? And so what we're going to do is we're going to provide a slide that goes with the slides from this presentation so that you have the point of contacts, that you understand how to go do that. That really, we feel that's the first step in this process, is to become an approved supplier. That gives us opportunity, because what we're really doing is when we have a need or we see that we've got to maybe get, bring on an additional supplier, then what we do is we go into this book of approved suppliers, on the website, and that's where we start looking. So I would encourage everybody that's not one to look at that slide and then, and see how you can become a approved supplier.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I know we've had a ton of interest in that, so I appreciate the information. Another question that came up, and I thought this was pretty interesting because I know we have a few people signed on that are students completing their degrees. What sort of opportunities does the Greenville site have for newly graduating mechanical engineers, or I would just say engineers in general? And do you do any design work at the site? And lastly, security clearance requirements. What does that look like since we're working on military projects here?
Yeah, thanks for the question. So the first one is, do we have a need? Yes, we have a need for engineering, whether it's industrial engineer, mechanical engineer. There will continue to be that requirement, and we are very motivated to hire within the state. We like to look at that and give that opportunity. The jobs that we offer here in Greenville, they're pretty good paying jobs. They give you the opportunity to come here, and you can either come here and work for a couple of years and then expand out to somewhere within our business. So but I would say the electrical, the industrial engineer, and the mechanical engineer are the three major needs we have right now. Excuse me. So yes, that's a big growth area. Then the part, I think the second part of the question was around, remind me what the second part was. I started coughing.
Security clearances.
Okay. Yeah, security clearance. There are some jobs that require security clearance, but they will be posted on the actually on the rec itself. So so if you go to apply for the job and you're like, oh, does that have a security clearance? Well, you'll see down at the bottom it says security clearance required, or the ability to get a security clearance. When we talked to the Clemson president, this is a conversation we had with him, is that hey, we feel that the more that you can work with your students so that they understand that part of it to become, the ability to get a security clearance and help them understand that, and maybe even take on part of that of getting them lined up for that when they come out. That's a huge advantage because you may not have it, but if you're able to get it, and there's some criteria to that, then we're willing to bring you on a temporary, basis. But there's some processes that you got to get approved through first, kind of a gated process, right, on the background checks and stuff like that. But I would say, if I was to put it in a percentage, I would say about 98% of our jobs do not require a security clearance here at the site. And then the other, about design. We do have design work here in our sustainment business. We do not have any design work on the F-16 production side right now.
Great, thank you. And then kind of as a follow-up, I see Carl Kroll just posted a question. He was asking if you could talk about the workforce in particular and kind of how recruiting and retention has gone, and how you see that kind of playing out in the future as well.
Yeah, so I think we have I know we have a very robust recruiting process, and and understanding what our requirements are and understanding them by skill set. There's also a setback process where that we have to make sure that we're bringing in we want to bring in skilled, right? So I think we all know that bringing in skilled labor with experience cuts down on your overhead in that training, and you want to have that type of workforce that's actually building the airplanes or maintaining the airplanes. In Greenville, before we really started the ramp up, the average years of experience here in Greenville, I think the lowest number of years experience was 12. So we have a significant base of experienced personnel, but with that comes a little bit of that. We also know that members on our team will end up retiring, and then we'll be bringing in new employees. So we do both badged and contract labor here at the site, so that gives us some flexibility. The skill sets right now that we would be hiring for F-16, when we talk about building and maintaining the airplane, we're really talking about sheet metal, avionics, electrical, and aircraft power and ground to run the aircraft. So those skill sets, that you have those, then you're probably more likely to be able to get the job. And I would say when we looked at this several years ago, we knew that there was going to be a big pull for additional resources. So we partnered with Greenville Tech. We started what's called a pre-apprenticeship program, and we felt strongly that we would. So the strategy is, hey, let's take the course that we have when people come to evaluate their proficiency development or their proficiency. Let's give it to Greenville Tech. Let's partner with them, and then let's have them, with the students that they have, sign up and be able to take this course. It's a several-day course, and then they take an exam. It's the same exam, and it's hands-on, and they take the same exam that we had provided in the past. They then get a certificate, and we then offer them. We put them in a position where that they are going to interview, and we've had 2 cohorts. In the first one, we had 7, of the Greenville Tech aerospace students in there. We hired, we offered the job to all 7 of them. Some of them decided to, stay in school. And others stayed in school, but we hired them. We had one individual that had not finished high school yet and was taking the course in addition to high school out of Greenville Tech. We waited till they graduated, and then we hired that person, and they are doing an amazing job on the F-16 production line. So there is, in addition to that, you have your supply, you have security, you have facilities. We really maintain a pretty large site with a pretty diverse workforce, not only in skill sets, diversity, here at the site. So hopefully that answered the question.
No, absolutely, and it's just a great example of one of the things that came out of our economic impact study was that multiplier in the aerospace industry. Every job creates another 1.7 jobs in the industry for kind of a 2.7 multiplier. So that's a great example. I appreciate that.
Yeah, we appreciated that study. I mean, I think when we saw that, we just kind of tilted our heads and went, oh yeah, you know what, that is a big impact. And I think we kind of realized it, but we weren't able to quantify it. So we're, when we think about hiring one, we're thinking about hiring 2.7. How's that?
Exactly. Kind of pivoting a little bit here, had a question from John Wall from the Manufacturing Alliance. He wanted to thank you for your support of the Manufacturing Alliance first, but was wondering if you could talk a little bit about the charitable work that Lockheed Martin does. I know you guys are pretty involved in being a good corporate citizen of the state, and I think he mentioned donating gowns down to MUSC when the pandemic hit and stuff like that. So I was just wondering if you could kind of give us an overview of that a little bit.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks, John, for the question. And, from a community perspective, our primary focus has been on STEM, education, STEM education, military and veteran causes. Our average annual community giving is around $300,000 a year. In 2020, we supported COVID relief with our the South Carolina community partners, and with more than I think it was 210,000 we had donated, and then over 2,000 medical gowns for frontline medical workers. We have several seamstresses here, at the site, and so they took it upon themselves. They wanted to go do that work, and they just started to do the gowns. They actually made all the masks. Most of the masks here for the site. So those seamstresses are the ones that actually, in our large aircraft, we have what's called blankets. They're like insulation foaming, and it's a pretty tough job. And so they appreciated the opportunity to do something a little different and support the community.
Great. It's been really great to see the way that companies like Lockheed Martin have really stepped up to the plate and helped to lead the way in the response. It's really been inspiring. Another question here we have from Elena Kensky at Hollingsworth. She's kind of wondering specifically here for companies that may already provide service support at other locations like Fort Worth or Marietta, how they can if there's a kind of a process or how they should best pursue opportunities at Greenville now.
Sure. Well, I think if you're already providing those services or that product to the company, I think you're well positioned, right? And obviously, I wouldn't say that we know all of those or that connectivity. First, I would say us understanding the connectivity is truly an advantage. And then again, you're already a Lockheed Martin supplier. We can. I think Leslie's on the slide that she's going to send out with this is going to have the point of contact, so you're able to reach out directly to that point of contact. When I was at the Aerospace Expo, I said, just we'll give us a call, and wow, I got a lot of calls and emails, and so we know where to filter those. We then know where those requirements. Don't get discouraged if we're not we will respond to you, but we then assess some of the do we need a second supplier? Do we have one in place? Is this something that's we'll need in the future? So we'll go through our standard process to understand what we need to do and how we can bring you on. Again, with our goal is to, we're at 100 for the state. We definitely feel, we believe that we should, what does that number look like in 2021 and 2022? Can you double it? Can you, and how can you bring in, and I it's just economically a big impact to the state, but I think also is that, this is a very demanding business, and time is money. And so when you think about time to deliver turn times. We need to make sure that we're considering all possibilities.
Another question that we just got via email was wondering if you collaborate with any research universities.
Yeah, Leslie, this was the discussion with when we went to Clemson and we talked to them. I would say no, we haven't. We haven't done it, and I would say because over the 35 years there really wasn't an opportunity, right? Research is driven by an opportunity and a need, but as we now bring in the additional work. We strongly feel that there are opportunities to, from a research standpoint. When we talked to, the Clemson president, I said, hey, look, here's kind of what I, envision. I envision, and maybe I'm not always politically correct on, the university side of this, but, is that the university would have a seat here in Greenville, right? Is that you would be able to, sit here and be part of, this growth and this research, because, just remain competitive. We've got to do things smarter, faster, quicker with the best, even greater quality, or continue that quality journey. So if we have, if we have those universities and that research capability, I always believe that if you provide them with an office and a seat, then they feel at home, they become part of the team, and they start to understand our needs greater than what we understand our own needs.
Great, yeah, and I think that's one thing that the council is set up well to help try to connect those dots too. With Dr. Bayumi being on our board of advisors and the SC Fraunhofer USA Alliance and the work that they do in helping with these research projects. That's good to hear. Let's see, I'm going to go back through the questions again and see what I haven't hit yet. Traffic, so specifically for those that live in Greenville, what can we expect for F-16 traffic? I assume they're talking about F-16s flying overhead, if we can expect to hear much. I think I might have heard, I don't know, I heard something the other day. I wasn't sure if it was an F-16, I couldn't see it, but what can we expect for those that kind of live in the upstate?
Yeah, we understand that's a question that the community wants to understand better. When you think about our history, we've had very loud aircraft here, right, and at Donaldson Center, in Lockheed Martin. So how we typically answer this question is that one, it's not something that I think the community is unaccustomed to as far as aircraft flying overhead. We are very, we're great stewards of when we do certain flights, we do not fly, past a certain hour, mainly because our flights, when they go out for a functional check flight, they got to be back before the sun comes down as part of their requirements. So I would say to that is that when we do the flying, you're not going to have the F-16s scraping, across the runway at midnight. They will be. We are mindful of the timing, the hours, and then and when our flights are. So they're in the. I think we're really in the zone of when we do the the flights as far as timing. The number of flights will increase on the F-16 side. I think you kind of get a view of that, and when you say, yeah, hey, there's been somewhat, I think already there has been a pickup from what we've noticed, where that both Shaw and McIntyre they haven't done touch and goes, but they've been doing flybys here at the site. So that traffic will continue to pick up. But we are, again, mindful and good stewards of when we are flying, and we have been flying loud aircraft. We had T-50 here, right, and that's 3 years. We were flying fighter jets out of Greenville for over a year and a half, right. So I think the community, from that standpoint, is accustomed to the air traffic.
It's great. I see Jonathan Duberman here commented "Sounds of Freedom," and I can attest to that. I can say as a former army officer, when I was in Afghanistan, the sound of an F-16 or any sort of fighter overhead was one of the greatest sounds in the world. So it's really a testament to what you guys do and the way you keep our country and our allies safe, and it's fantastic. So.
And thank you for your service.
No, thank you. It's very impressive here to hear about how many veterans work with Lockheed Martin, and it's great to see. And I know that those guys and gals often bring a great perspective and love to see kind of the other side of national defense and what keeps this country safe. So it's definitely something that Lockheed should be proud of.
Yeah, we are, and I know I speak for all the team here at Greenville. We're proud of our state. We're honored to be doing this work here, in Greenville, in South Carolina. Nowhere else in the world would we want to be doing this. So thank you for all your support, and our state is really well positioned for growth, and really a big part of the national defense strategy, right? When you think about foreign military sales and maintaining the F-16, got an incredible mission, and their mission is our mission.
Great. Well, Mike, I think that's a kind of a good stopping point. I know we have some people that have meetings that are going to start at 10, so we want to give them a few minutes to be able to sign off and get on to their next meeting. But I just want to say thank you on behalf of the SC Aerospace Cluster, our advisory board, and the broader council. Thank you so much for the time today. Thank you to Leslie for helping us to set this up. I think this has been very beneficial, and I think it's, like we said, it's something that Greenville and the whole state of South Carolina can be very proud of. All the work that Lockheed Martin's doing, but especially that we're now the F-16 capital of the world. What a thing to say. So thank you again.
Yeah, thank you. And as we say here in Greenville, from our boss, keep them flying.